Welcome to Start Before You're Ready, the podcast that proves that you don't need to wait for the perfect moment to begin your journey towards better health and happiness. I'm your host, Kelly Young. Remember, the first step is often the hardest, but it's always worth taking. Hey guys, it's Kelly, and I'm back with an episode of Start Before You're Ready that is going to be incredible. I know it's going to be incredible because my guest is incredible. Today, I am sharing with you one of the biggest gifts of my life, one of my best friends in the entire world, Jen Rivera. I call her Rivera, but her name is Jen Newman now, but I will always call her Rivera. I'll take you back a little bit, and then I'll take you to present why I wanted to have her on today. So I met Jen in high school. She did not go to the same middle school as I did. She went to a Catholic middle school, and she came in, and there was already word on the street that this girl, Jen Rivera, that was so beautiful and so this and so that, was coming to Niskayuna High School. I was a little concerned, what's happening? But to my surprise, Jen came in just incredible human being. We became the best of friends. It started with basketball, but it ended a lot different. And she has been one of my best friends in the world my entire life. We have been through some of the hardest of hard together. She has been by my side always. And she is just an incredible human being. She loves bigger than anybody I've ever known. Her heart is so big. She's so caring. We have a bit of a telepathy between us. And that's actually how I got her on this week, because on Tuesday, I was driving home from my class, and it was the end of a holiday weekend, and I was feeling a little bit frazzled, like the beginning of a week with a short week, because I've been worried about my membership and trying to get new amazing people into my community, and I don't feel like I've been doing a great job, and I worry about my focus, and I was just like having this whole talk with myself on the way home, feeling kind of bad, feeling like you need to get your stuff together, Kelly, you need to focus, and getting like a little bit frazzled about where I was going to spend my time on that particular day. And I pull into my driveway and I get a message from Jen, 8:36, just listen to your podcast about setting goals. It's so good. And I shared it with a few friends. It just, to me, it was a very nice text. And I just like, to me, like that is just one of a million examples of how our lives have just, it was like Jen somehow knew that I was having a moment and struggling. And she just wanted to say like, your work matters or what you're doing matters. Jen is been incredibly successful on so many levels, and we're going to talk about that. But before we do, Jen, please introduce yourself to the Start Before You're Ready community.
Hi, everybody. I've met a lot of you because I've been a lot of events up in the Bootcamp. I've been to Bootcamp myself many times. And every time Kelly and I go away together, we have our own private Bootcamp that she wrangled me into, which I always love. And I'm always totally bright red after I finish. But I've always admired Kelly. We became instant friends, just as she had said. We had so many good times together. And if anyone wants any of the really good stories, you can DM me later.
We're going to get to the good stories.
We'll get to the good stuff. So Kelly and I did have a lot of fun. I think the thing about Kelly that I'm sure you've all seen, and Kelly was saying like no one loves more than Jen, but I think it's Kelly. When she was describing me, she was describing herself 100% plus a million times more. Kelly is probably the strongest person I know on this earth. And even in college, like if I ever had a problem or any of our other friends had a problem, they would go to Kelly. She would take care of it, whether it was with brute force, with strength, intelligence, encouraging words. Kelly was the person to take care of whatever problem you had. So she's a problem solver. I think that's one of your superpowers, Kelly, is you're a problem solver. Everything is figure-outable, which is one of the phrases that Kelly has coined that I say all the time to my kids and my friends when anything goes wrong. And I think that the thing that makes Kelly unique, and also I think everyone in her community that I've met, is that people are genuine. Like it's a world where there's so much AI and there's so much, you don't know, what's real, what's not real. I think the community connection that Kelly forms and that human connection is something that is so powerful. And I think that we all need a lot of that today. So I'm really excited to be on this podcast and to talk more about Kelly and just a few other things.
We're not talking about me.
I know. So but we're both going to deflect the whole time. I was just about to say, I know she asked me to talk about myself.
So this is about you. They hear from me all the time, Jen. This is a chance for them to learn you and your story and to get your wisdom. And I'm going to go back to, because Jen mentioned college, and Jen is part of a very smart family. Okay. Like her entire family is very smart, and Jen is too. She has a lot. Jen has a lot of the creative, but she also has a superpower of get stuff done. Like, we're going to make this happen. We're going to get this stuff done. And in college, we were the same. Well, we chose our school together. We both were deciding between, we were both communications major, and no brag, but in our world where we lived in upstate New York, the two best schools for communication were Syracuse and Ithaca. If you were going to go to school for communications, you wanted to go to one of those two schools. Ithaca was very up and coming at the time because they had just built the new Roy Park School, and I had always wanted to go to school for communications only because I wanted to be Oprah, and that's what I thought Oprah did. So I hated the news. I didn't really like anything technical. I really had no business going to school for communications. But Jen, on the other hand, was a prodigy in our school. Like, she was like, if you knew Jen Rivera, she was like head of ad lab, very, very active in all the groups, very much wanted a career that centered around advertising and that centered around creativity and campaigns and all that. And you were really impressive, Jen. I just want to note that you were very, very impressive. And she never studied, and I studied all the time, and I went to every single class, and she would just take my notes, and she would get an A and I would get a B. And that was pretty much
very good notes. She had very good notes. I didn't even have to go to class.
Jen never, I'd wake her up and be like, Jen, here you go. Jen, we have whatever, lab, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever time it was. Either she wouldn't go, or she would go in the exact same clothes she wore the night before, and she would stop on the way to class, and I kid you not, and she would get a Mountain Dew. She'd be like, wait. And I'd be like, no, Jen, you're not getting a Mountain Dew. And then I'd be like walking in the corridor, and I'd hear like the can open. I'd be like, I would be mad at her. Even back then, I would be mad at her.
I would get the Mountain Dew and also the Snickers bar, because that was my breakfast.
I'm like, that cannot be the first thing you're putting in your body. Meanwhile, I'm sure I'd already come back from the dining hall and had like a full course breakfast.
Yes, you did.
I should have taken better care of you. I should have provided. Leah would have provided us a breakfast. So Jen went on to. So I'm just going to do a little bit of history on Jen. Jen, tell us about your first job, because you did have a really cool job.
Okay, so I did have a very great career. I loved it. I loved every minute of it in the advertising world. I started off in Philadelphia for a company called Footcomb Belding, and then basically moved my way up within that company, and then transferred to Boston, and I worked for Arnold Advertising on the Volkswagen Drivers Wanted campaign. You probably have all heard about it, but that really was the thing that kind of springboarded my career. I worked on a lot of different banks. Fleet Bank, I don't think is here anymore. And then Bell Atlantic, which was a phone company back then. Doesn't exist anymore. Now I'm dating myself.
Nothing we did exists anymore, actually, but continue.
Yeah. Well, General Motors was one of my big accounts. I moved over to the digital side because I wanted to be part of the up and coming new thing that was happening. And back in that time, banner ads and online advertising were really becoming huge. And I was one of the 4 people that started that division of our company. And it is now called Digitas. So I was part of the team that started that initial basically company, which is currently now one of the largest digital advertising companies in the world. So that was super fun. We won an innovation award. That was really exciting for me there for working on the General Motors account. We did the first online in Brazil. It's different the way they sell cars. There's a lot of different options. And we created an online configurator to purchase and order your car online in Brazil, which was great. I got to spend a lot of time there, and I have family there from my dad's side. And basically from there, I just continued working at Digitas until I had my first son, Quinn, who is now 23 years old, which is crazy. He graduated, and now he's working in New York City as basically a software developer. So that's crazy to even think that he's doing what I was doing, he's in a marketing company doing that for them. And then basically I took a bunch of time off, but I always worked as like a volunteer in my children's schools, doing their galas, their fundraisers. And that's really how I fell in love with the event business. I worked for an interior decorator for a few years and learned like operations, how to run a small business. And then basically my sister Caitlin and I started our own company called The Joy Standard. And we do event planning, weddings. Basically, we're so busy that we have 4 other people working for us now. We started our company about 8 years ago during COVID, which was absolute craziness. So super happy. I'm working all the time. I also take time for myself. I play on 2 tennis teams, which I love tennis.
Okay. Tell them about your championship that you just earned.
My team took first place in the league.
Jen is super competitive. I want to talk about that too. Jen is super competitive. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, she's so happy right now. She's crazy.
I was so happy. I bought my entire team these gold medals, like the Olympics.
Oh my God.
With the straps. They were like $15
each. Be the team that lost to you.
I was like so excited. And then it's like, you're spending $15 on these medals that people are going to throw away. People are not going to throw these away.
No, they're not.
And he was like, isn't it like a women's like league? You have to be like 30 and over. I'm like, you don't have to be 30 and over. I played a girl who went to Rutgers once and she was 28 and he was dying laughing. He's like, you think you're so important. He's like, did you beat her? I'm like, no, but I played her.
Why is Dennis trying to smush your championship? Like saying it's like 30 and older. First of all, 30 is young. Let's face it.
I know. And I don't even know. I actually don't even know what the rules are for my league, but it is a New Jersey State league and it's not the top league. Like if anyone knows USTA, 4.0 is like the highest league that ladies can play in recreationally or competitively, in my organization. And we're like the one down from that. So there's the A team and there's the B team. So we took first prize for the B team, but I'm still excited and happy.
Are you kidding me? That's amazing.
And it's like the one thing that I do for myself that I don't think about work or my commitments and everything else I have to do.
That's great. Everybody should have that thing. And I love that. And I know you have an incredible, I am a crazy friend. Jen will post like a picture of her and her 2 friends from New Jersey from tennis. And I'll like take it and I'll black their faces out and I'll put me and Leah on it, my friend Leah. Because I don't like even though I have friends, I don't want you.
That's so funny. It's so funny. No, we were like, it's so funny. Wait, we got to tell them about the dog and Dog Junior. So Kelly, our nickname in college, she's the dog and I'm Dog Junior because people would like mistaken us for each other at different random places. And
start with why was my name Dog? Because that sounds bad. Like we need to explain why my name was Dog. So it doesn't feel like
you're trying to scare us and you were hiding in your dorm room.
Okay, yes. Yes. So my roommate, I had this sweet little roommate. I'd love to reconnect with Jen Goldman. And there was a shelf in the closet, like way, way high up. And I would get in it when she'd come home and I'd be like, hi, Jen. And she'd be like looking all around. And then I don't know why I thought it was so funny. I mean,
because it was funny.
The maturity level at 18 years old.
And she was sober when she did this, people. She was sober.
Like this was something I would have done any day of the week. Anyway, so they called it the Dog House. And then our friend Daryl made up Kel Dog. And then everyone called me Kel Dog. That was just my name. And then Jen, I think the junior came on my 21st birthday. Oh no, you that was just when you announced that your name was Dog Junior. So that's her thing is they call her Junior, Dog and Dog Junior. But we did favor each other, mostly our dialect. We were from the same area and we talked very similar and we had similar looks. Jen's smaller than me, but we had similar looks, big hair, wore the same clothes because we just wore each other's clothes. So we would like one of us would go to the candy store, me, and I'd get hot balls because that was my study. I would have like a bag of hot balls to study. And someone would say, weren't you just here? And I'd be like, no. They're like, you were just here. You got, and then it would be like, gummy this, da, da, da. I'm like, I would never get that. So it was Jen. And then it happened all the time. People would just mix us up. We were like interchangeable to some people, but yeah. So Dog and Dog Junior. All right. One thing I want to say before I forget, and then we're going to move on. I want to talk about Joy Standard, why you named it the Joy Standard, and talk a little bit about that. But before I do, one of the other reasons why I had Jen on this podcast well, there's a million reasons why I wanted to have her on the podcast, but one that I was thinking of recently, and I mentioned to her, was my first ever challenge was with Jen Rivera, because you were Rivera at the time, and my husband, Andrew, before we got married. So let's call it 30 years ago. And I forgot, you both wanted to lose weight or something. And I was like, and you were like, hey, I need your help. I think you lived in Boston at the time. And I was like, all right. And it's like the same principles that I have now. And like, create some rules for yourself. Like, what are the things that you know will make a difference? We'll use that and you're like, and I think you said, I'm really competitive. I want this to be like a contest. And I was like, Andrew, of course, I always trying to get Andrew to do something. So I'm like, do you want to do this contest with Jen? So it was the two of you. But normally something like that would fade. Like it would, it wouldn't go on. I think it was like 8 weeks or something. And we must have had cell phones. Yeah, we must have.
Yeah, because we checked in. And there was accountability for sure.
And you got points every week. Well, I'm running something similar right now with some college girls and then an older group of girls in their 20s. And I think I said to Lindsay, I said, this is exactly what I did with Dad and Jen 30 years ago. This is like the same thing. It's just like a text accountability challenge, what people still need to this day. So I just wanted to give you a little shout out, Jen. One more way that you've helped me in my career. And one other way is I remember because Jen was the super, super creative. We can't really do it justice on this podcast, but like she's the person that you want to ask any kind of idea generation. Forget AI, forget all that. Jen is like, her mind is really, really sharp. And when I was telling you about when I wanted to start Bootcamp, I called you and I gave just like two other things. So then I said, well, what is it? And I was like, well, it's just like me and I'm just going to like bring my car up to the parking lot and da-da-da-da. You're like, Kelly's Bootcamp. I'm like, no, I don't want to name it my name. I don't want to name it. And you're like, no, it's you, Kelly. It's your Bootcamp. And you're like, Kelly's Bootcamp. Not that was like an example of your creativity, but I never regretted naming it that. And I was always nice to give you credit for it. So thank you for that.
Good. I'm glad. And it's true. I'm glad you did name it. And then start before you're ready as well. I have to take credit for that.
I've told that story several times actually on this podcast. So you can tell your version of it. I'll give you a chance.
So were we in Lake George?
We were in Lake George.
And we were talking about
summer of 2024.
Yeah. And we were basically just talking about like what it was, like what you wanted to accomplish. And you were very clear on your goals and what you wanted it to do and what you wanted it to be. And that was easy part for you. But the harder part was like, how do I brand it? How do I market it? Like, what do I call it? And I just remember having a conversation of like everything you're describing to me. And like, I guess it's like when you're starting a business, like what are the barriers to entry, right? So what are those barriers to entry? And the barriers to entry is that like sometimes it can feel like overwhelming. Sometimes it can be like, I'm not ready to do that. Like I'll do it tomorrow. You're always putting something off. So that's when I said like, it should be start before you're ready, because if you get people to start something before they're actually ready to do it, just take that jump, just take that leap of faith. Then you'll be successful, because once you get people in the door, they're going to fall in love with the program. They're going to fall in love with your community, with your people, everything you've created. So you were like, absolutely. Like you didn't even like question it. You're like,
I never thought about it again. The way you said it though, Jen, literally I said 10,000 words and you said back in conversation in Lake George, in the water, you were like, start before you're ready. And I was like, yeah, start before you're ready. You just were boom. You just like, and I had 42 titles. And I remember saying, that was the other thing I said. I said, well, let me pull up. I'll read you the title. No, you go, no, I don't want to hear those. You said, I don't want to hear your ideas. Tell me what it's about, was what you were saying. Like, I don't want to hear what you think the title should be. Tell me what you want the book to be. And you nailed it. Okay. Speaking of start before you're ready, how did you start a incredibly successful company with your sister without having any experience in that field other than doing what you did as volunteer work?
Yeah. So basically this was a total start before you're ready scenario, because my sister, Caitlin, It actually is because of her, because she worked in the fashion industry. She worked at Anthropologie for a long time, Ralph Lauren for a long time. And the fashion industry, for anyone that's in it, is brutal. It can be very brutal. Both the time commitment to it and also the politics within it are brutal. So you can be the smartest, fastest, best at what you do, but it's going to be like you're feeling like you're on a hamster wheel the entire time. So she was really fed up with that. She loved what she did. She's extremely creative. She has talents like beyond my capability. So we were just sitting in a restaurant in Philadelphia, talking about it. And I was working for the interior decorator as basically like her office manager and doing the sales for her and locking in a lot of business. And I was always thinking to myself, like, I should be doing this for myself, but like, what would our product be? So we literally just said to ourselves, like, what do we love? Like, what do we love to do? And I had just done her wedding for her in Nantucket. And I basically was the wedding coordinator for that and planned all the flowers with her. She did the creative vision. I did the orchestration of it. And we were basically like, we loved doing that. That was like, you didn't even feel like you were working. And honestly, like, I've had that feeling when I worked in marketing. I didn't feel like it was a job. I felt like it was something I enjoyed doing every day. And I was like, Caitlin, what if we started our own event planning business? Because like we both love to do this. And like you're creative, you could plan all the looks of all the different events and the florals and the design. And then I could actually manage the sales process and all the coordination and the detail, which is what my superpower is. And so we're combining our two biggest talents. And I think the biggest thing too is we thought about what makes us different from everybody else. And I think the biggest thing for us with this industry specifically, and it's like lessons that she learned from fashion and what she didn't want to be, was entitled, expecting things, standing around with your clipboard, just ordering people around. That's not us. Like we grew up in a very large family. Kelly can attest to this. We were all over the place. There was 5 of us. It was like a zoo in my house. We had 3 dogs, 5 kids, people coming and going all the time. The strictest dad you'll ever meet.
One of the smallest houses in a smaller home in Niskayuna.
We shared one bathroom for all of us.
Yeah.
I'd be pounding on the door. My brother would be pounding on the door. So we learned from birth that you don't stand around and watch other people do things. You make things happen. And if you don't get the food off that plate first, you're not eating that night. So like we roll our sleeves up.
Michelle would not want to hear that.
No, Michelle, I'm exaggerating. And that's one thing Kelly will also tell you. I exaggerate everything.
She exaggerates everything. She ate. No one in the Rivera house.
Nobody ate. We're starved. We're starved. No, Michelle is the best cook on earth. So nod to Michelle.
That's her mom.
Amazing mom. We were never short of love and everything. And by the way, I always had the best outfits, the best clothes. Like she provided everything and more. And my father provided everything and more. So they were a very traditional family. Like she stayed home with us and my dad was a professor and he worked and supported 5 kids on a professor's salary, which they did a great job at. But going back, the biggest thing is that we're not afraid to roll up our sleeves and do the work ourselves. So if we see someone not cleaning up that dirty napkin or there's a scuff on the floor, we're getting down and we're cleaning that scuff and we're picking up the napkin. So nothing is like beneath me, even though I was like a VP in corporate marketing for many years. And that's a very white collar job. And you talk about like white collar, blue collar. My job right now it leans more blue collar because I'm servicing people. I'm taking care of them that night, making sure that they're having a wonderful time and that everything is perfect and the vision that we created is being executed flawlessly. So to me, I think that is why I've been so successful, because not only are we good at our white collar jobs, like our desk jobs, like the business of keeping to a budget and finding the right vendors and the right fit for people. I think the thing we're best at is sitting down with our clients, understanding what their true desires are and what will make them truly happy. And we make sure they get that. And we make sure that it's done in a very thoughtful way where it's not just about the amount of money you paid for a flower or the best tent that you have. It's about how you feel that day and what the takeaway from that is and how all your guests feel that day. So most of the people that hire us, I have to be honest, like everyone's like, what's your worst Bridezilla story? I'm like, I don't have any because those people don't hire me because when they talk to me on the phone, like they know like I'm not their fit. So I have been so lucky that I truly, every single client of mine, I see their baby pictures. I see their other parties they rehire me for because when you work that closely with someone on a big event, you become friends. And it's been such a joy. And the joy standard is why we needed the joy standard, because when we sat down, we thought about what are we naming our company, kind of similar to what you did, Kelly. Like, we knew everything we wanted to do. We looked at what we wanted to offer, how we wanted to be different. And we were like, the joy standard, like, these are the standards that we've put for ourselves. And these are the standards that we're always going to hold ourselves accountable to. And having those standards are what is going to make us successful, and it was going to make your event successful because you've hired us. So that's basically the entire story in a nutshell. It's been a fun ride. I enjoy what I do every single day. So couldn't be happier.
Well, there's so much, but starting with go to on our Instagram, go to the Joy Standard. There's been some videos where I literally like not known one guest, not known anybody. And like my face was soaked in tears because of the joy. And that's the exact word that I would use. And I remember saying that to you once, Jen. I'm like, how do you get, I could just tell your clients are cool. Like, they're just like great people. They don't think they're better than everybody else. They might, whatever. I don't know who they are or what they do. It doesn't matter. They're just fun, amazing people. Their guests love them. They love their guests. It's not like it's a production that's just beautiful because of what it is, but the work that you and Caitlin do is
and also
brilliant.
Primarily because of them as people. And I think the best event planners, or even like anyone like you, Kelly, it's the same thing. It's you bring out the best in those people and you identify and recognize, like, what can I do to make this person happy, to bring joy to this person? And, having them feel good about themselves and like what they're accomplishing, what they're doing. And it's like, I'm so lucky and blessed to be part of these milestones in people's lives, which are like the happiest times of their lives. I've also been hired to do, shivas and funerals as well, because, the repast, because again, it's what are the goals of my client? What are they trying to accomplish here? They want to remember their loved one. How can we do that in the most special way for them? So coming up with things to make that, it's a hard time to make that even better. So it's like you can find joy in every little thing that you do, even the sad things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, talk about that for a little bit, Jen, because I know, we've had this conversation as friends, just like your job is a job that's a weekend job. And that's hard. I mean, you don't need to do that. You could be out on a boat or, wherever you want to be. You don't have to be doing some of the hard work that you do on the weekend. How do you make that work with your family, and how do you?
So basically, because I have Caitlin and myself, and then we have other planners as well. I really like say to myself, like, I'm only going to do a maximum of 2 events on the weekend a month. So out of any given month, I'll do 2. And that's enough for me. Even if I could work every weekend or wanted to work every weekend, to do the best at what I do, I purposely only take 2 for myself, because I feel like knowing the amount of workload and what goes into the week before an event, it wouldn't be fair to my clients if I were like not focused on their specific event, their week. So I never do like a Friday, Saturday, I only do one a weekend. And if I do have multiple events going on, sometimes we have 4 events in one weekend, but it's never me personally running all 4 of those. It'll just be me running one. So it really is a balance. And yes, you have to give up. Sometimes you miss events. Sometimes you miss really great things that you want to be at, but it's a good trade-off for the luxury I get of making my own hours and also working with such wonderful people in the happiest times of their life. So it's, every job has a trade-off. And so that's just the trade-off for the event business.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you're so good at connecting with people. And I think that serves you on multiple levels with this business, obviously connecting with your customers, your clients, and then connecting with the vendors. Because I'm sure so much of what you do has to do with your relationship with your vendors.
100%. I'm nothing without my vendors.
Yeah.
The vendors are,
and they're so good,
the backbone. And to me as a planner, like, I want to protect them. I want to make sure that they're well cared for, but I'm also the clients, I'm serving their best interests. So the way it works is, because I have such great relationships and I take care of the vendors, they take care of me. And so they're willing to do things for me, like hold a date that they normally wouldn't hold and that type of thing, which allows my client to get what they want. So it's like a win-win situation all around. And like I said, I've always worked with wonderful people, so they always want to take care of their vendors too. So
that's excellent. Well, what's one I want to move on and talk about your health a little bit. But one thing that you would say, so we have a lot of people in this community that might have children that are coming to the age that they're going to be having big events, or as an event planner, what's the one piece of advice that you would give somebody looking to host or looking to start to just like to choose an event planner, anything? You can go anywhere with it, Jen.
So I would say, like, and I tell this to all of my friends too, don't like overspend. Don't think about an event from a financial perspective at first. When you're looking about planning an event, think about the outcome you want first. So how do I want to feel at the end of that event? Don't think about how you want to feel during it. Think about afterwards, not the hangover, but everything before, like looking back, like what are your goals? So if it's a graduation, I want my kid to have the best time of his night or her night with their friends. And I want to be able to witness that. So whatever it is that is your goal, like what you're feeling, look at it from that perspective first. And then think about, what do I really need to make that happen? Do I really need the $30,000 flowers? No, I can do bud vases with a few stems. Like what is the structure of that, and how is that going to be accomplished? Like the biggest thing is like, think about it from a practical, emotional level first, and then layer in the design and the Instagram and all of that after. And that'll help you with your budget, because you have all the concrete things stabilized first, and then layer in the nice to haves after, with if there's any money left in your budget.
That's so good. I love that advice. So good. Okay. Well, let's talk about you've overcome a lot. Your family has overcome a lot, and you've been through some very, very hard seasons. And I'm going to say what you said to me in the beginning when you said that I'm the strongest person you know. I feel that about you, Jen. I feel like your strength has been such a gift to your family, and just your attitude is really remarkable. And I know your family has had a strong faith. I know that has been a huge part of what's helped you. It goes back to the joy standard. You don't ever want to bring other people down. Like that is like your worst nightmare. Like, oh, like I don't want people worrying about me. But Jen had some really major things happen to her health-wise that I did not understand fully until Google came out, and I started Googling things like Whipple. And I'm like, what was a Whipple? And I'm like, oh my God, Jen, what is happening? So let's talk about that. I'd love for you to share as much as you're willing, and maybe like how you found out about it and what that kind of stuff.
So basically what happened was I was completely normal, happy person. It's those stories you hear about, like one day fine, next day not. And I basically ate like half a bag of potato chips one day after a party. And as anyone at our age knows, like that doesn't go over well sometimes. But for someone who has something wrong with them, it created pancreatitis in me. And I needed to figure out what that was. And I didn't know what it was at the time. I just had severe back pain in my lower back. I just felt terrible. I knew something was wrong. And I kept saying to myself, and Kelly definitely has like a sixth sense, and I feel like I do a little bit too. It's like, you know, when something's wrong, like there's just this nagging thing in your mind that's like, this is not normal, something's not right. And I felt like there was something weird like in my body that like didn't belong there. And so of course I'm a little bit of a hypochondriac too. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor's like, you know what? It sounds like pancreatitis, what you're going through. We're going to do some blood work. We're going to run some panels. And my liver panels were extremely high. So they admitted me to the emergency room to see what was going on and what was happening. And basically at that emergency visit, the doctors came out with very grave, very upset looking faces and said, I'm sorry to tell you this, but we think you have aggressive liver cancer. Like you have a large mass on your liver, and you're going to have to go see an oncologist. And here are some recommendations of what you can do. And I was like, what? Like, how could that be? It didn't end up being liver cancer, just so everyone knows.
Yeah.
But what it did,
even though I know, I'm like, my heart's
I know it's very upsetting to hear that news. It was me and my husband that were there. We have two boys, and the first thing you think of immediately when you get bad news is your kids. When you're a parent, and also my mom, because I was like, oh my God, she's not going to survive losing another child. My mom, I lost my brother when he was very young. That's a whole other story. But she basically, the look on the doctor's face, I was like, oh, this isn't going to be good. So amazingly, the second thing that happens after you do that is you say to yourself, okay, how do I solve this? What am I going to do to make this go away? How am I going to fix this problem? So I'm like, okay, got it. We know what it is now. Let's go see the oncologist. I did go to 2 different oncologists, and basically what it ended up being was something very rare called a choledochal cyst, which is a structural cyst that's inside your common bile duct. And mine was the size of an orange inside my body, which, if you picture like your liver is connected by a duct, it goes kind of, they join at the Y structure with your pancreas. And that's basically where like the acid and then the bile, which reduces the acid, combine, and then they go into your stomach. So way too much information, but they had to remove that whole middle section. And basically, Kelly mentioned the Whipple. They told me I was going to have the Whipple procedure, which is removing half of my pancreas and rerouting everything. And basically what ended up happening is I went to Sloan Kettering, and he told me the choledochal cysts, 80% of them turn into bile duct cancer or pancreas cancer. And we need to get this out immediately because I need to do an analysis of the entire cyst to see if there's any cancer cells and move forward. So long story short, went to Sloan Kettering. I had the surgery. He was able to pull out the cyst from my pancreas without removing part of my pancreas, remove the entire common bile duct, and then reroute my liver, basically the bile from my liver, directly into my small intestine. So that's basically what they did to the inside of me. And the result of that, it is incredible. The doctors at Sloan Kettering, giving them a huge shout out. Dr. Jarnigan, if you have any issues with biliary issues, he's the guy 100%. And the entire process, I do have to say, like, my husband is a rock. So his calmness and his support of me during that time made it doable. And I think having someone be alongside of you for that journey that you know is going to be there to support you and take care of you along the way is huge. And that to me was like my saving grace. And also like, there wasn't a doubt in my mind at any time that I wasn't going to be okay. Like I was like, I am going to get through this. I am going to have this surgery. This is going to be fine. I'm going to believe what the doctors are saying. And my number one piece of advice is if you ever get bad news about your health, do not Google, do not look it up, because you can go down a rabbit hole of doom. And the only people who are posting that kind of stuff are the people who've had bad experiences. So don't ever look at it because you will get mentally drained from it and emotionally drained from it. So end of the day, I was in the hospital for 9 days recovering because it's a fully open procedure. The recovery was very hard, very slow because you're laying flat on your back for 9 days. You lose muscle mass, you lose tone. So it was a very long, slow process after that. 3 years later, after that huge surgery and after the recovery, I had to have a series of 9 other surgeries because basically the connection between my liver and my small intestine closed. And I went to interventional radiology at Sloan Kettering, and they do a procedure where they basically insert a stent through your ribs into that opening through your liver, and they blow a balloon up in there and rip the hole open, and then a scar tissue forms around it, and then they remove the balloon, and then they do it 9 more times to keep making the hole bigger and bigger. So it forms like a scar tissue ring instead of like a plastic or fake ring that they would put in your body, which is amazing. It's absolutely amazing, the technology they have. So that was really hard too, because that was, that's the one time I did start to get down after like the 8th surgery. I was like, not another one. But anyone, who's going through cancer or chemotherapy, like they probably have the same feelings because it's like, I'm just starting to feel better now. And now I have to go back in for chemotherapy and have it feel bad all over again. So I think that the thing that made everything okay was that not for a minute did I ever get negative, only that one time after the 8th surgery. But I was like, I'm going to stay positive. I know I'm going to get better. It's just a matter of time. And I'm lucky that I have the time to do it. I had people covering for me, my friends and my family and my community, my tennis team, people were dropping off meals every day. So you get what you give. And like the love that I pour into
Yeah. I was just thinking, I literally was just thinking, I can't imagine how many people you've done that for, Jen. I literally was just thinking.
I just am so lucky and blessed of my friendships, both my tennis girls and all of my community, my neighborhood. Everyone really like stepped up and kind of like took care of my kids, really. And, Dennis could take care of me. So it was a really hard time in my life, and I'm glad it's over. And I'm a realist too. It's like, I know that it could happen again. Like I could have to go back in, but that's okay because I'll deal with it when it happens. There's no point in worrying about it now. The worry is like the worst thing you can do for yourself because it's like wasting time. Like, don't worry about it now. Worry about it when it actually happens because it might not ever happen again. You know what I'm saying? So that was really, yeah. So I think you just have to stay positive. Don't waste your time worrying and just move forward. It's just another challenge in life.
Okay. Do you think there were any signs before you ate that bag of potato chips?
There were little ones. Now you look back, there was definitely little signs because I would have difficulty sometimes breathing a little bit, like if I would eat something bad, because it really is like your gallbladder acting up and your liver having to struggle when you're eating greasy, fatty foods. That's when I would see flare-ups. So I was just attributing it to, indigestion, I ate badly. It would never happen when you eat healthy because your liver isn't working overtime to break down the fat. So basically anything that was causing bile to be produced and pushed through that very narrow hole that was being constricted by the colloidal cyst was causing flare-ups. So looking back, I feel like it happened overnight. But then if I really think about it, yes, there were those little issues. But you could write those little issues off to indigestion or eating badly.
Easy. Yeah, and those issues could have been nothing. And I'm not, please, I'm not trying to minimize the incredible journey that you've been through with your health, but it might be a good time to mention the clue in milk.
Oh my God, that's so true. Oh my God. So ulcers. So I was very prone to ulcers, and it didn't have anything to do with no, I'm being sarcastic. I'm being sarcastic now with my drinking habits.
Oh, no. But okay. But you used to, my
stomach.
Didn't make the best decisions in college. And before you would go out, or when we went out, like your first drink would be a Clue in milk, which I thought was the most disgusting thing in the world.
I think it's disgusting. No.
Yeah. But you were like, I need this to coat my stomach. You used to say that. And also, you probably hadn't eaten a thing all day.
And also, I made that up. Like, does milk even coat your stomach? No, milk is actually acidic, which is...
I don't know, but you did... I do remember. The first thing when I heard about this, I'm like, oh my God, remember she used to have a Clue in milk to coat her stomach? She probably knew what she was doing.
And I used to drink Pepto-Bismol, too, before I went out also. So you're right. Back then, it was probably an issue as well, and I never made that connection. That's so funny that you mentioned that, because I didn't even think that far back, but yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So now I know Jen and I have not always been on the same page with nutrition, and we mentioned the Mountain Dew, but I do think, and who cares? Like everyone's got their own, but I do think now you have learned a lot about your own body and what works and what doesn't work, and you make better decisions most of the time. Is that 100%. Fair to say?
Absolutely. I think pretty much, well, most of the time, yes, not all the time. I think now I've had to, because, in my 20s, 30s, and even my 40s, I could eat a cheeseburger, French fries, basically whatever I wanted, and I would never gain a pound. Then when all of a sudden I turned 50, even in my late 40s, I couldn't eat like that anymore. And so, because I would notice my pants would get too tight or I wouldn't fit into something. And as Kelly knows, I'm way too vain to have myself not feel good or feel like I look good for myself. So I would diet and start exercising, working out, eating better. So I'm definitely more of the person who likes to do sports, specifically tennis for my workouts. But I've also learned that I have to integrate weightlifting to some extent, at least I try to set my goals 2 times a week so that I don't fail on my goal. And then if I get some extra bonus things in, then great. And I've also learned that stretching is huge too because of tennis. You have to stretch and you have to make sure your body is flexible so you don't get injured.
Yeah. So good. That's great, Jen. That's really good advice. Okay. So There's so many things that I could talk about. I want to talk about Dennis. I want to talk about so many things. I do want to say though, because you mentioned him being a rock, and Dennis is an incredible man, and I'm so glad that you and him ended up together. But one thing that I remember very specifically about Jen and Dennis's wedding was it was September 15th, 2001. 2001. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, Jen?
Yeah, so crazy times, as I'm sure we can all remember, was 9/11. My husband was basically in the building next to the World Trade Center and was running from the debris. We got married on September 15th, so 4 days after it happened. And basically, I was home, like packing my hotel goodie bags, like water, granola bar. And on TV, I see Katie Couric, like there's a plane, it's at that time, they thought it was just like a small plane that hit one of the buildings, like by accident. And so I immediately pick up the phone and I call Dennis, and I call his office, and nobody picked up, which is crazy because he's on a bonds trading desk, and they always pick up the phone no matter what. And I was like, that's weird. So I called his cell phone, and he's running. He's out of breath. He's like, Jen, he's like, I'm running. I'm like, he's like, we're being attacked. And I was like, what? He's like, someone's attacking our country. And I was like, what? And as I was on the phone, I could hear a plane going over. He's like, there's a plane going over my head right now. It was the second plane. And he was like looking up at it, and he goes, I think it's a commercial plane. It's like a commercial plane. And he's like, and then he started talking again, and he got disconnected. And I was like, oh my God, like what? And I'm like, I've got people in from Bolivia. That's where my dad's from. I've got people in the Bolivians were in New York City. So I had all kinds of Bolivians calling me, Brazilians calling me on the phone. Like everyone's like, what's going on? And the cell phones were not working there. Like I couldn't get through to him. So it was probably one of the most scary times in my life as a wedding planner. It's like, I didn't even care anymore. I was like, who cares about this wedding? Like my husband might not be alive. Like this is insane. Shockingly, he was okay. And we didn't lose any of our guests in the incident. However, we did lose, some people that attended our wedding lost friends, like very close friends, and some even family during that event. So our wedding that was going to be 260 people ended up being about 200 people. So 60 people couldn't come or make it, but it was honestly such a release to all be there, and everyone really wanted to be there. They're like, we're not going to let this stop us. So it was like everyone needed to be together. And I think the power of human connection, like, and being there for each other, physically being there for each other, like, was really like important, and everyone really needed it at that time. As do we need it when anything bad happens. It's like when there's something bad that happens or good that happens, you just want that human connection. And I think that's something that people really need to like prioritize these days too, with all the different craziness going on with AI and fakes and all this stuff that's floating around, like what's real, what's not real. Like, I'll tell you what's real, like human beings are real. So what I always say to my kids is make time to spend time with other people. And there's a rise in that. There's a rise of young people going back to church. There's a rise in young people like being more part of a community events and volunteerism because of all of this. So I think that like out of all the stuff, when you have crazy shit happen to you, it's like just take a deep breath and just connect with someone. Don't go it alone. Like, that's my biggest advice to anyone, like, especially with your mental health. It's like, don't bottle things up. Like, let it free, let it flow, like talk to somebody. In your community, Kelly, anybody can talk to you. You would be a great resource for anyone struggling with something to talk to. So talk to Kelly if you're struggling with something, or anyone that you feel like you can trust.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And just when you mentioned Dennis being unflappable, I was like, yeah, because I remember a lot of people probably couldn't pull things together. And like, I remember talking to him about it at the rehearsal dinner, and Dennis just like talking like we're talking like this. I'm like, I would not, I'm sure a lot of people had to do that, but it is impossible not to think about you with your role now as a wedding planner when the bride is worried about the weather, or the bride is worried about the things that are less seemingly significant. I'm not saying anything is, but I'm sure you don't tell the story. I'm sure you don't say, well, when my husband was running from, but I think you know me in the universe, Jen, how I feel about how everything in this world is happening for us. And we do think that these terrible, terrible things that have happened in our lives, and you touched on your brother a little bit, and that's something that your family had just to be so strong. And when I think of the definition of family, when I think of like a strong family that stands by each other, the Riveras like come to mind. I can see every single one of your siblings, your mother, your father's hug, just how much he hugged. So all of us, all of your girlfriends just know, like when your dad hugged you, it was like he was trying to give you every bit of love that he had. And that's the environment that you grew up in. And you're doing a beautiful job of spreading that in your community, to your clients, to your friends. Still to this day, you are the person I call when I need that right voice in my head. You'll tell me exactly like it is. And everybody needs a Rivera. I say that over and over again. She'll tell you exactly what you need to hear, but she'll also be real. So thank you for being on this podcast. I know it was a last minute ask, but I knew that your message would mean a lot to a lot of people. And I know it means a lot to me just to have this time with you.
It was an absolute honor, Kelly. You're literally like my person. I'm sure everyone knows this, but
notice we both like people that we're like each other.
But the thing is, to me, it's, and anyone watching this too, because like sometimes so my kids have taught me a lot, right? And it's like, Mom, not everyone can have like their person. Not everyone is that lucky that they find their person. And I'm saying to them, you know what? You're right. It's true. And maybe you feel alone, and maybe you feel like you don't have that person. And they're not necessarily talking about themselves. They're talking about maybe other people. But I do struggle with that a little bit too, because I always try to like push my opinions on people. Like you were like, if you want the truth, like ask Jen. And what I've learned, and this has been over time, is to try to also put myself in somebody else's shoes and realize that like their environment might be very different than mine, and the struggles they're going through might be very different than mine, and something that I cannot relate to. And I cannot give advice to, because I really don't know like what they're doing. So sometimes it's best to just listen and support in ways that like, don't be like, you're so strong, or like you'll be okay, because you don't know if they will be. It's like sometimes people just need someone to listen to. Someone to listen to them and to like understand like what that is. And maybe they will find their person someday, and maybe they won't. And that's okay. You can still live a super happy life and not ever having that, because you don't have one person, you have 50, or you have 2, or you have none, or you have your dog, or whatever makes you happy. And that's like the biggest thing I've learned in my business too about joy. Joy comes in so many different like formats. So find your format and do you.
I love that. I do want to just, this will never end because we could talk forever. But one thing I do actually want to say is I was just listening to something. I'm a bit of a podcast junkie, and it must have been a podcast, but it was because I was kind of thinking as you were saying that, like, find your person. You and Dennis are so different. Like there was some struggle for a while because you always like a reaction. You want like someone to like, and Dennis doesn't react. You're not getting a reaction from Dennis, and I can relate to that. And so there's that similarity there. But he's not your person for that. Like you have Leah for this and Kelly for this and your tennis friends for this. And I do think that is such an important point to make. Like you don't have to be the same as your significant other necessarily, but you have to have people in your life that fill those buckets. Maybe it's like your foodie bucket, and like that's the person you go have yummy food with, or maybe it's your music bucket or whatever it is. So I love that you mentioned that last. I'll try before I share this. I'll try to reference that because it was actually and it might even been like a social media post. If I'm being honest, I don't remember, but it did strike me like this is a message a lot of people need to hear. Like, don't worry if your husband's not your deep thinker, or you like personal development and your husband doesn't, or whatever it is that you find, go outsource for that. Hopefully
150%. And also like, stop looking at Susie Q, who has the perfect marriage and they're BFFs and they do everything together and they're so happy and this and that. It's like, great, good for them. She found all of those things in one. I need 4 people for that. And that's okay.
Me too.
You know what I mean?
5 to 6.
And it's totally fine. And guess what? You can have a very happy, meaningful relationship with all 4 of those people. I wrap them all into one because they become one by being in a relationship with me in many different ways. And good for my friend Susie Q, who has her perfect everything in one person. Good. That's great. So I think that human connect, if I could, one takeaway, I think both for you and for me in this podcast is the joy and the value of human connection, and also have the courage to be flexible and to try to put yourself in other people's shoes, to try to imagine what they're going through or how you can help them, make them happy. And you'll get that back times 10, times a million in your life.
Yeah. So good, Jen. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being on.
This has been so fun.
So fun. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Start Before You're Ready. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might need a little motivation. Ready to start your own journey? Check out our workouts and nutrition coaching programs at kellysbootcamp.net. You can choose from in-person sessions or virtual programs. Set up a complimentary coaching session to get started. Follow along with me and the show on social media at Kellys_Bootcamp. Until next time, this is Kelly Young reminding you that the best time to start is always now.